folks. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to northern Spain. And we're in a little pueblo called Noja. We arrived here actually 2 days ago. And we had a bit of a chill out day yesterday. It was really lovely weather. Went for a nice run in the morning, bit of a swim in the sea, had a shower, all the important stuff for living out of a van. And then we discovered it on our morning run, Route de la Costa, coastal route. And there looked to be some quite nice little coves and rocks. So given the fact that we just parked the van up down the way there on the side of the road overnight last night, allowed me to jump out this morning. Now, the light yesterday was lovely while we were running. That light that us photographers really try to hunt down, where you've got lovely sort of front facing light, but then the backdrop of some lovely dark clouds. Unfortunately this morning it looks as though there's a bit more haze on the horizon. We're about 10-15 minutes away from sunrise, so I don't think sunrise is going to be much caught, but I thought I'd go around anyway and see whether we can make an image or two. So let's do that funky Route de la Costa. So first shot, and I use shot in the loosest possible sense, lined up behind me, trying to take advantage, as I said in the opening clip. I don't think, in fact I'm pretty sure sunrise isn't going to be much caught because there looks to be quite a lot of cloud out on the horizon, or at least sort of mist. I think I've spoken about this before. One of the issues I have with shooting at the coast in a portrait format is when all of the subject matter is over to the left hand side of the image, and of course with very little on the horizon that can quite often be the case. And so I've purposely, there's sort of two reasons why I've set up this particular shot. Firstly, it allows me to fill the frame by incorporating sort of subject matter at the bottom of the frame, a few little wild flowers in there, and obviously at the top of the frame we're able to get some of the sort of far distant coastline in with those lovely mountains. Two, because I am filling the full frame, it kind of means that the sort of left hand side doesn't feel as empty up on the horizon. Now I'm also taking advantage of what light there is on the horizon with that rising sun. The sun will have just risen now, and you can see out behind me here there is just a little bit of pink glow, obviously nowhere near enough to give any sort of light onto any of the subject matter. Quite like in the middle ground where the sort of rocks are, they kind of imitate the far cliffs as well. And in fact now, as that sun has risen, I can now see sort of into that sort of gap of light the sort of far distant mountains, I'm assuming of sort of southwestern France. It would have been nice to get some side light in on the cliff face and in on the rocks, but I don't think we're going to get that. From a technical perspective, F something or other, I am shooting a bracketed scenes. As I've said before, I've moved away from using grads now, and so I'm just bracketing the scene. 5 bracketed shots probably overkill, but heck, why not, eh? I could use an ND or a initial density filter to slow that shutter speed down, but the water is very calm as it is, and I don't think the effect would be all that much. So no filters, F something or other, 5 shots, and mainly using this subject area to both allow me to fill the frame and also take advantage of what light there is out on the horizon. Right, we'll wander on a little bit. So lined up a second shot, and once again I'm shot in the loosest possible term. It's nice to be out as always, and very similar to the previous one, again in a portrait orientation, making use of what light there is on the horizon, and again trying to fill the frame with as much subject matter as possible to avoid leaving too much space on the left hand side of the frame. Now, one of the things that I guess complicates here is we've got all of these lovely sort of placement of rocks, and trying to position the frame and compose the image with not too much overlap in those rocks, and that's need a little bit of fine tuning, both in terms of position left and right, but also rising up. I think there's two of the rocks that are overlapping just a smidge, but I don't think that I can avoid that. And then it's just the usual, trying to avoid anything that's sort of poking in from the side of the frame, and again making use of some of these lovely wildflowers along the bottom of the coast, but no light. Well, I say no light. There is light, of course, and there is a nice sort of sheen of pink on the sea, but certainly no directional light, which would have been lovely cast on these rocks. But hey ho, hey ho. Now, the other thing that I'm also consciously aware of is that the sky, there's a little bit of colour, a little bit of texture in there, but a lot of that sky, I think, isn't really bringing a huge amount to the frame. So already thinking that in post I'll probably crop a bit of that sky out, still keep a reasonable amount, but crop a little bit of that sky out just to bring a little bit more attention to the subject matter rather than leaving a huge amount of space. Obviously, if we had some lovely early morning light in those textured clouds, would leave more into it, but a little bit of cropping action never hurt anyone, I say. Well, we shall wander on. This route de la Costa is quite popular, especially with dog walkers, so already been speaking in very broken Spanglish to a lady this morning. But yeah, second image, we'll throw it up now and we shall wander on. Now we're starting to lose a little bit of, not necessarily the intensity, but the kind of the richness of the colour in that gap. What colour there was, of course. But we're doing something very similar again, another portrait orientation, and this time there's a little ramshackle "Hola perro", Espanol, hello dog. Actually, I googled what doggy was in Spanish, and it seemed to suggest it was wow wow. I then said to someone, "I like your wow wow," and he looked at me like I was a crackpot, which I guess he wouldn't be far off. Anyway, I was off on a tangent there. Dogs and people. So using just these little sort of ramshackly steps leading down as a bit of a sort of lead in, and again the benefit of having 2 minutes. I think the people are about to walk past me. We'll pick this up in a moment. Yeah, so again I've got the benefit of subject matter sort of on both sides of my composition. So quite glad that the coastline here lends itself to that. I'm so used to shooting along the Causeway coast where it's, you know, you're shooting out in a portrait orientation, and quite often all of your subject matter is on the left or the right hand side, leaving a huge big gap. So quite pleased that we're able to sort of fashion something together. But as I say, that rich orange tone now, I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to see that. Let me just can't really darken it down too much more. That rich orange tone is now sort of leaving us, and it's becoming quite washed out on the horizon. Now behind me here, there's some lovely, much more textured clouds, but just no light on the foreground. The rocks are beautiful. I love all of the sort of jaggedness of it all, and we do have some of the, I'd say, lovely, guess it would still be thrift along the coastline here, just adding a little bit of extra dimension to it. So not too bad, but I think what nice light we had on the horizon is slowly leaving us. So, but we'll take another wander on. It's 7:45 in the morning. We're driving on to Santander today, where we hope to stay in a little hour for a couple of nights. It's quite a busy one, as you would expect, people visiting Santander, so I think there's a sweet spot of about 10:30, 11 o'clock where people are leaving. Hopefully we'll be able to get a spot, so we'll wander on a bit further and see whether we can get another one or two beaches. So, brought myself to probably the furthest I'm going to walk along. The route to La Costa heads about another sort of 2.5, 3k to my right, your left. Beautiful walk. But as I said, most of that early morning light has now gone. Now for a while there we were getting this lovely mixture of sort of deep, there was almost like a deep, out to the sort of shadows on the left, almost like a deep bluey purple hue going on, and it was really nice. Really struggled with the composition around here, however, but I did have my iPhone on, and I had it on the wide angle, and I started to play about a little bit with just there obviously was a building here of sorts, because there's some sort of brickwork and steps. I'm not exactly sure what was here before. I know there was a artillery bunker on out here, but I'm not sure what this was. Probably some sort of fisheries or something maybe. And down to my left, your right here, there's a gap, a sort of natural archway, and so I was playing about with the wide angle on that, and I thought, well, why not give the old, I obviously keep the 10-24 on the XT4, and I always forget that I can obviously shoot some stills on that as well. So I moved over to shooting on the 10-24 and just did a little bit of a wide shot. I'm not a big wide angle fan. You know, you start your photography with wide angle, and I remember that first time getting the old Sigma, what was it, 10-24, and shooting at 10mm and wondering why someone's feet was in the frame, and then realising it was your own feet, but it was all about the wide. So I'm not too sure it works. Similar sort of setup using bracketing, just to sort of hold back some of those highlights, and sort of I quite like is it a juxtaposition of the sort of man-made brickwork and the sort of natural stone, and then you've got a little bit more of the sort of thrift and the plant life. So, well, I think that's it for the morning. It's about probably a 20-minute walk back to the van. Nicola's actually got a bit of a job on this morning. We were just talking there whether we were actually going to stay. One of the fantastic things about travelling in the van is plans. Plans come and go. Now, we haven't actually travelled that far. We've been on the road 2 weeks, well, actually 2 weeks from we left Port Rush, 2 weeks today, and we've only travelled about 40 miles outside of Bilbao. Got a lot of miles to do still, but at the same time we don't have a lot of miles to do. We just kind of, you know, play it by ear and see how we go. But I think we're still going to pack up here, head to Santander, and see what the city has to offer, and then our plan is to sort of carry on bimbling west. The weather here on the north coast of Spain can get a bit more overcast, as I think I said in last week's vlog, and so from a practicality point of view, both working on the road and needing that sort of power, we might drop down a little bit more south just to take advantage of the sunshine conditions. But our ultimate goal is to make it across to the Galicia area, and then come back across east, and hopefully, fingers crossed, if border control allows it, get across into France as well. But that's way in the distance. So, but from the coastline of Noja, I shall put this final image up. Might throw up a couple with the iPhone as well. And once again, thanks a lot for following along. And until next time, take care.